Welcome to Grit Real Estate Investing, your go-to podcast for mastering the essentials of real estate investing. Hosted by Omar Muhammad, the entrepreneur, and Ronald Willis, the neighborhood landlord. We are here to break down the grit formula, getting started, regulations, investments, and tenants to help you build your financial future. Whether you are a first-time investor or a seasoned pro, we've got the insights, strategies, and expert advice to help you succeed. So let's get started. Welcome to the Grit Real Estate Workshop. Again, my name is Omar Muhammad, and over there we have Mr. Ronald Willis. He is the co-host. And we really want to set the stage for what we're going to be doing over the hopefully a long period of time. So as you have seen, for those who have been with us probably since 2020, we used to do this on Zoom, and we had people asking questions. We'll have an opportunity for you, the listeners, to ask questions as well. However, the first couple episodes will be about Mr. Willis, because he's the expert, and he's going to talk about who he is in the first episode. And then the next episode, we're going to talk about the real estate. I know you all are itching to get into it, but we're going to get there. But before we get there, a couple things. This is the Grit Real Estate Workshop, and it's brought to you by us here at Morgan State University. Actually, we're here on campus at Morgan State University. You get to see outside. This is the Graves School of Business, and over there is the bridge. You'll see some students and faculty. Just people just walking back and forth. You can ignore them. The focus is right here, Mr. Willis. All right. So what we're going to do here is, we're going to do two of these every month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll do two of these every month. Again, it'll be myself, it'll be Mr. Willis, and we'll have an opportunity to share information about what we're doing here with the Grit Real Estate. We'll get into what Grit is. I know, I said it a couple of times. All right, and we'll go from there. All right, so a couple of things before we go on. You can find this on edacmorgan.com. That's edacmorgan.com. And guess what, y'all? We got an app coming. So stay tuned to that.
Good.
You'll be able to listen to your favorite real estate workshop from Mr. Willis on our app that's coming really, really soon. With that said, I'm gonna turn it over to you. Well, I'll ask you some questions to kind of get us situated. First of all, how you doing?
We're doing fine. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Good,
We
good.
met this last night.
Yes.
Had some pictures with the governor's wife and
Okay.
big deal was District 40. I'm in District 40, and so I met some of my councilmatic people.
Good deal.
So it's always good to network with politicians.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so right now let's focus on who you are. Why should people listen to Ronald Willis?
Well, I presently, as of March 2024, 23,000 plus a month. That should get your attention, how I've developed a business from scratch, ground zero to where it is today. So for those of you who are interested in real estate, I have taken the option to be a landlord for 45 years. And it has been an upward climb of success. Like all businesses, you have your low periods, but I have not lost any of my 12 houses. I paid 8 of the 12 of them by age 50. And I'm very proud of that.
All right, so Mr. Willis, let me jump in. Before we get to the real estate side,
Okay,
let's
yes.
find out who you are.
Oh, okay.
So that people get to know, like, and trust you. So
Okay,
tell us
sure.
about who you are, where you from, where
Okay.
you're born, and all that good stuff.
Okay.
We're gonna trust me.
Sure.
We're gonna get into the real estate.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And let me help you with that. Mr. Willis, this guy here, he has worked in a number of, actually, he's spanned a lot of careers.
Yes.
From corporate to government to
military.
academia and to military. So who are you? So people can learn about who Ronald Willis is.
Okay, I'm right Caroline Street in East Baltimore. Graduated from Dunbar High School in '66.
Go Poets.
And go Poets. I graduated from Morgan in 1973.
Go Bears.
There, go Bears. When Morgan's tuition was just $99.50 a semester. And so I, like many urban school people, kids at that time, at 17 years old, I entered Morgan State College. I'm still single, no children, and I'm 76 years old, in good health, and I live in a community. I have always been an entrepreneur, from selling newspapers, from selling magazines of all kinds, and I even have a hobby that I have right now that I show for people around in my 1930 Model A Ford. So I've always been entrepreneurial, and it has paid off in the short and long run. I have 17 trusted tenants in my neighborhood, and they rely on me year after year, and it has been a successful business. But again, who I am, I'm a Christian person who believes, and if you work hard enough, pray hard enough, and follow up, kind of have follow-up skills, you will be successful. And that has worked for me. I use my sociology skills, believe it or not, in my relationship with my tenants. I'm not the average landlord. I'm proud of my record. It's impeccable because how I treat my tenants, I keep close eye on them, and they have their complete privacy. And I've used those sociology skills to make sure the communication is continuing to be transparent. So that's the kind of person that I am, a very transparent person, and I have a clean record. I repeat, I have a clean record with all city and federal agencies.
All right, so let's talk about what you were a student here at Morgan State University, and your major was sociology.
Sociology.
Yeah.
Right.
So let folk know, what is sociology?
It's the study of groups and how they relate, how they resolve problems, how they interact, how they figure out problems, and how they go from one step to another in terms of solving their problems. Sociology majors usually end up with positions or start off with positions in juvenile delinquency, marriage and a family, social security, jobs that relate to having a relationship with the public where you help resolve their problems, whether it's addiction of all kinds to counseling. This is what sociology majors generally do. And fortunately, I graduated from Morgan at a time when affirmative action was very strong, and I had a great opportunity to use those sociology skills in a position that I'd never heard of with the company that I became exempt, a manager, in a position that I'd never heard of called safety engineering, where we studied the workplace of how people could be in that existing workplace and become safe employees, and at the end of the day, leave their employment with all of their fingers and hands. And so that's just what I have done in a nutshell with sociology.
All right, good deal. So leaving Morgan, you went to
Bethlehem Steel
corporate
home office,
yeah.
Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Okay, so talk about the experience that you had at Bethlehem Steel.
Well,
work experience.
I know
you had some other experience.
So here I am, a black male from East Baltimore, getting an opportunity to fly on an airplane for the first time to a place called Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, the corporate office of Bethlehem Steel Corporation. And by the way, I worked for Bethlehem Steel right here at Sparrows Point as a laborer, as a lineman. I was successful at that for 2 years while matriculating through Morgan. But this opportunity was to work for Bethlehem Steel home office. And I was initially a recruiter, and then I got promoted to come back to Baltimore, Sparrows Point, Maryland, to be what's called a safety engineer, where I had to prove that I could be qualified to learn the codes, the standards for the steel industry, in particular, Bethlehem Steel Corporation, Sparrows Plumbing. So the objective was to start off in a trainee management program and then to qualify for what's called an exempt position with Bethlehem Steel. And when you become an exempt position, you have your name, they have the name printed on your hat this way, and so you become one of management. But the position allowed me to converse with the union and converse with management to solve problems. Here comes sociology, all right into play. So that's what I did for about 10 years with Vesteel before they completely folded worldwide. Not because of me,
right.
but because of the tempo of the times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Downsizing.
So leaving Morgan, going to Beth Steel, what was next?
What was city government, Baltimore city government.
So government.
For another, by the way, I was laid off like thousands of other Bethlehem Steel employees worldwide. So I had to make the adjustment. So I went to work for DPW, Department of Public Works, Baltimore city government. And in two departments, actually, I started off as an asbestos technician.
Oh, wow.
Well, they trained me to be a qualified asbestos technician. And from there, the promotion was to be a safety supervisor with DPW. And so I did that for another 14 and a half years before they began to lay off people because of downsizing. Not because of my performance, but because of downsizing. So, but in that interim, I also joined the Army National Guard.
Oh, wow.
And as a 33-year-old, joining the service for the first time was really a challenge. And so I took that challenge because at 34, military says any branch, you're too old to join. But at 33, I followed some advice of some good mentors who were colonels, and they suggested, give it a try. And I did give it a try. And now I'm proud to say that I put 25 years in with the Army National Guard, the Navy Reserve, the Air Guard, and the Army Reserve with an impeccable record. So I retired from the Army Reserve with a combination of all those services I just mentioned after 25 years as a staff sergeant.
And what was your, what they call it, MO?
My MOS.
MOS.
Military occupation was, most of the time, was a corpsman. Corpsman in the Navy Reserve, a medic in the Army National Guard. Yes.
Okay.
Right here in Baltimore.
Well, I mean, your career spans, through a lot of opportunities. Of course, academic, military, government, and corporate. And a couple of your landing spots, you were a safety person.
Yes.
And we're gonna talk about that. Well, let's talk about that. How did that transfer? We call it transferable skills. How did it transfer into your business?
Well, after three layoffs, I said, I better have something in my back pocket just in case whoever I work for begins to downsize. And by the way, if you're listening to the news in these contemporary times, federal, state workers, and so on are being laid off through no fault of their own. So I said to myself, since I was put in this unique position as a safety officer, a safety engineer, how can I translate those skills into something else? Well, after doing a lot of thinking, I said, you know what? I've always been mechanically inclined. I've always been a Mr. Fixer, fixing toys, fixing cars, etc. So I said, you know what? As much as I love my parents on Carolina Street, I want my own nest. So I bought my first house in Parkside Gardens, and I began to transfer all the skills I learned as a safety officer to understanding the construction of a house. So I said, you know what? I'm going to buy my first one.
Yeah.
Make sure I know enough to look at it structurally, electrically, mechanically. And so that began to spur my interest.
So I like that. I don't know if you were telling me about this or somebody else was telling me about this. Where the house is like a body.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
very much
yeah,
a house that we live in,
yeah,
apartment that we live in,
yeah.
condo that we live in, has many of the same organs that our body has. You know,
Yeah.
if you have a central air conditioner, we have a central air conditioner inside of our bodies.
Mhm.
That when we perspire, it helps us to
Yeah.
stay cool. That sweat helps us to stay cool. But we have a bowel movement. Our houses
Right.
also have a bowel movement when we flush that toilet,
Yeah.
when we turn on that spigot. And we have an electrical system in our bodies. And every house on the planet in North America and other places have an electrical box
Yeah.
somewhere in the house.
Absolutely.
So apartment. So I began to put two and two together using my basic mechanical skills from a kid and just translating them from Bethlehem Steel to DPW to becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. So entrepreneur, and I'm just going back to here when you were here, a student here at Morgan State University, you majored in sociology.
So yeah.
Did you ever think, what was your career goal?
Uh,
What was the greatest
Believe it or
sociology?
not, I wanted to be another Martin Luther King.
Okay,
I wanted to inspire others to do better,
okay.
and so since I did teach Sunday school at Faith Baptist Church in East Baltimore for many years as a teenager and a young adult, I thought that that was my calling. But then I realized after working in the city jail, not as an inmate, by the way, I had an internship
Yeah.
with Morgan that I would work along with others in the city jail of Baltimore, J&K section, trying to help juveniles get their life together.
Okay.
And so I decided I I wanted to be involved in a position as a career goal where people were learning to help themselves,
Right.
to resolve their problems with the help of that counselor.
Mm.
So, as a safety officer, believe it or not, if you were a union worker
Mhm.
and you had complaints about your work environment, be it sawdust on the floor, poor lighting, whatever it was, you needed somebody to talk to in addition to your foreman, because your foreman might not see the same perspective of safety that you do. So
Right.
you had to have, as an hourly worker, somebody who could repeat the codes,
Yeah.
who could use common sense to figure how to make your work environment safer. So that made, when I would convince that foreman, that general foreman, that superintendent, that Mr. Omar Muhammad has a strong point in reference to his safety, that was getting management together,
Mhm.
getting the hourly worker together, the shop steward together, and together we would solve that problem.
Oh, wow.
So that was, again, sociology, people
Honestly, yeah.
helping themselves with
Yeah.
the help of the counselor. Kind of like a referee is is any game that's played, football, basketball, soccer. There is that referee who pays attention to both sides
Right.
and makes the call.
Absolutely. I love that. I don't know if we still have that degree he offered here, sociology. I mean, it may be morphed into something, a
It may
different
be
type of.
HR.
Yeah.
It may be some area in management
Yeah.
where they solve employee problems.
Right.
And I'm not sure if they have that at Morgan, but there is a department called HR.
Yeah, we have a degree. I don't know if it's a degree offered, but I know there's some classes.
Classes in HR.
Yeah, the School of Business.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So while you were a student here, did you ever think about entrepreneurship?
No, I did not. I was just trying to struggle through two jobs and going to Morgan.
Yeah, absolutely. And times are changed. So if you haven't been here on the campus of Morgan State University, come on over. We got some new buildings here. We got some new majors here.
Mhm.
But it's a great place to be. So before you really got into entrepreneurship, I mean, you had some great skill sets. The next episode, we're really going to talk about your properties, real
Okay.
estate investing. I know you're itching to get to. I'm itching to get to it too. We're going to talk about
Sure.
that. But if you could say for those individuals who are looking to become real estate investors, what is one or maybe two skills that they should have as they begin to think about real estate investing?
Well, that's a loaded question because there's flipping houses.
Well, not
Oh,
that.
oh.
What type of see?
Oh.
Not even just worrying about.
Okay.
Let me rephrase it then.
Mhm.
Not even just worrying about the real estate piece,
Mhm.
but as the individual, going into a business. Let's just say going into a business.
Okay.
What would you say are two characteristics individuals should have?
You have to have.
Because you've been there.
Yes, you have to have an extreme tolerance of risk
Mm,
in terms of if I make this investment,
uh-huh.
what are the risk factors involved?
Mhm.
And so and you must not be afraid to take that risk.
Mhm.
There is a slogan in one of the buildings here in Morgan where this person is saying, man's reach should exceed his grasp.
Oh, wow.
And that means that if you're afraid to take that risk, then you'll never reach that goal.
Mm,
So that fear of failure is something that you have to somehow reduce to the common denominator of, I'm not going to let that fear of failure
yeah.
stop me from taking that risk.
Yeah.
So that is one characteristic that you have to have.
Mm.
It's kind of like many people learn to drive a vehicle, but so you've done the reading part of how to drive the vehicle. Now you're in the vehicle itself.
Right.
Oh my goodness. People are around me driving. I'm afraid, but you've got to take that risk of learning how to drive a car.
Right.
And in business, it's the same way, no matter what business it is.
Absolutely.
You have to take that risk.
Okay. Is there another one that you can think of?
I think that you have to have patience.
Mhm.
You in today's world, many of the people feel that they can make a profit overnight.
Oh man, say that again.
Many
Million,
people
that
feel-
overnight million, that don't happen like
It
that.
doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
You know, mine didn't certainly happen that way. It was a gradual increase of profit over the years.
Yeah.
And initially, it was a loss.
Yeah.
A few $25, $40 a month, but then as the years went on, it reversed itself to the rents far exceeded the mortgage.
Mhm.
So you have to be patient.
Mhm.
That's a characteristic, be aggressive, but patient.
Absolutely. I mean, those are really good ones, risk factor and being patient as well. Especially in real estate, but in any type of business.
Sure.
Those two can play a part in it,
Right.
especially the patient piece.
Patient piece. I'm mentoring two kids right now. One is 21, one is 19.
Okay.
And they are shadowing me.
Okay.
And they're shadowing me in every phase of what I do. How I talk to tenants, how I talk to contractors. And I give them scenarios. How would you handle this situation before we go into it?
Oh, wow.
So although they're completely unaware of all the consequences,
Mhm.
they hear and see and feel the tensions.
Yeah.
But they also hear and feel my responses.
That's it.
And all my tenants, all of them respect me.
Mhm.
And to the point they stay and stay and stay year after year. And that's an indication that I must be doing something right.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, the next episode, we're really going to get into the real estate piece. This is just a primer, everybody, to let you know, who this guy is. It's going to be coming to you for those who are looking at us on video, but we also have audio too. You can hear the passion that he has, not only for real estate, entrepreneurship, but for human beings. And I wanted you all to learn about who this guy is. So we definitely will come back on that. All right, so we're going to wrap up the first one, unless you have any final thoughts.
Well, just that whatever your business venture is, you must not let your mother, your father, or anybody else say you can't do it. It's worth giving your dream a try. And you must feel that it's better to feel 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it worked. And rather than to feel, I could have done this, I should have done this. You must take that leap of faith. So That's all, and that for right now.
All right, I'd like to give your dream a try, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We're giving people an opportunity to hear and decide what type of information that they can pull together resources to go out there and make your dream come true. All right, all right. Sounding like Martin Luther King to me.
Yes.
All right. All right. So this is the first episode. We're going to bring this to a close. Again, this is the Grit Real Estate Investing Workshop. We really appreciate you all coming on. We'll put out 2 of these each month, and they'll come out the second Wednesday of each month. So you can tune into edacmorgan.com. That's edacmorgan.com. And we will have an app for iPhone users, and we have an app for Android users as well. So stay tuned to that. Future episodes will let you know how you can plug in to that opportunity. And you can also go into our website. We have other workshops available. You see our annual report here. This is the one for last year. Our newest one is coming out really soon. We're getting that printed now. You can see the activities that we're doing here at the Morgan State University. We really appreciate you for tuning in. Until next time, continue to improve and progress. Peace.
Peace.
All right.
Okay. So
That's what Welcome back to the Grit Real Estate Investing Podcast, workshop, whatever you want to call it. My name is Omar Muhammad, helping you improve and progress in business and in life. And over there is the co-host, Mr.
Ronald A. Willis.
Yes, they surprised you. So, this is the second podcast, and he and I will be doing these along with some other people. So we'll have an opportunity to bring bankers on, accountants on, anybody that's helping real estate investors do their best. We'll bring on other real estate investors because Mr. Willis is about to tell you about the type of real estate he's doing, but there are other individuals that are doing totally different projects. So we want to bring those individuals on this podcast as well. We happen to be broadcasting from the Morgan State University, Go Bears, and we're in the School of Business, the Grays School of Business. You see people walking back and forth. So that's the bridge that leads to the main campus, and I guess they call this is the west side of campus. So that's where we are right now. All right, well, let's jump right into it. We came up with this formula, maybe 3 years ago, and we call it grit. And we used to do it before the pandemic. We used to do it here on campus, and we then moved it to Zoom, and now it's morphed into this podcast where you can get bite-sized chunks. Is that right? Yeah, bite-sized chunks of Mr. Willis talking about his experience in real estate, as well as other opportunities. So GRIT stands for getting started, regulations, investments, and tenants, the favorite people of all landlords, y'all. Tenants. So we're gonna have some sessions on working with the tenants. All right, so before we do that, we're just gonna jump right into it. The first episode, if you didn't hear and you don't know who Mr. Ronald Willis is, hey, go back to the first episode, tune into that, and then come back here as we now dig deep into real estate. All right, I know you've been itching to get to it. So real estate investing from a sociology major
From a sociology major
to a real estate tycoon.
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 That's right.
All right, so let's get into it. How did you get started in real estate?
Okay, so I bought my first house in Parkside Gardens for myself, of course. Didn't think of becoming a landlord. I just wanted to transition from my parents' house on Caroline Street to this first house. I learned what turnkey meant, and you should know what that means. Or it means that the house is in impeccable condition, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. People were living in it, and it was $14,000.
Wow.
Back in 1976. And I said, wow, I'm transitioning after I graduated from Oregon, got a good job, saved my money, and I needed a down payment. So, although I had monies of my own, I learned from a mentor about a piece of legal paperwork called a gift letter. What in the world is a gift letter? So a gift letter, in short, is a loan, a gift from an immediate relative to show to the bank that you're buying this house from that you have monies available for a down payment. Now, the bank is not really concerned if you pay that money back to that relative. They're just concerned with that you have that money needed for the down payment in the bank, so they can say, yep, this person is worthy, both bank wise, and they have the credit rating and the job together to take this venture of buying, in my case, my very first house. So I did that. And that with my own monies, I moved in this little house, this row house, brick row house in Hamilton, mainly a blue collar, strong blue collar neighborhood. Again, turnkey, because although I was mechanically inclined, I still had a lot to learn about the infrastructure of a house.
Absolutely.
So I didn't want to move into a house that I had to repair the roof, the furnace, I had to do any major repairs. So I thought for me, as a newcomer to this industry, that I would move into a house where I had little to no problems. And that was the case. The only problem I had was changing the locks. And that wasn't really a problem.
Yeah.
Just have a locksmith change the locks.
Right.
So I moved into the house and I thought, Lord, this is it. Yeah. I've graduated from Oregon, got my first house. In fact, before I even bought the house, I was buying food, furniture, the things that I would need to move in. And I did. But after about 2 years, moving from one row house on Caroline Street to another row house on Parkside Gardens, gee, I like this place, but I can hear my neighbors talking. I can hear my neighbors' television going on. I mean, it wasn't a great disturbance, but I wanted more privacy.
Absolutely.
So I said, you know what? I'm going to start looking for another house. And I've, from 1976 to 79, I was in the house on Chatford Avenue in Parkside Gardens. And I said, you know, I wanted some breathing room. Yeah. So I moved to the house that I'm in right now. Oh, wow. In Hamilton, not that far from Morgan. So I said, wait a minute. I just want to move from one house to another. But just like the economy is in question right now, interest rates were high. I said, gee, that's too much of a risk. Nobody wanted to buy the little house in Parkside Gardens. I said, why? So I said, but I found this house where I'm in right now, and I saw the potential. I saw the vision. 2-car garage, Cape Cod, 3 levels. Maybe I could convert those 2 levels to apartments. Those were all dreams at the time. So I must admit that they were the very seasoned real estate agents that came out. They were Jewish descent, and they convinced me to do my homework. They provided me some places to go to for the homework, and I did that, and as a result, I rented that little house out and moved to where I am now. And those tenants that I rented to are there today, by the way. Oh, wow. They are there today, and they did convince themselves to buy this house from me until 40 years later. Wow. And I'm thinking, what caused that? Yeah. Sociology. Yeah. They said, Mr. Willis, I like a better refrigerator. What's a light crown molding? Yeah. Crown molding. And the more they kept requesting, the longer they stayed. And of course, what went up? The rent. The rent. That's right. Yeah. So I moved. So they convinced me to keep Chatford Avenue, move to Birchwood Avenue, and take that risk, take that leap of faith. So I had a mortgage on Chatford Avenue. I have a mortgage on Birchwood Avenue, and I had to get a second mortgage to put down on Birchwood Avenue. Wow, what a risk. What a tolerance of risk. So I didn't have a village to support me.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, Snooky was her nickname, loaned me the gift letter, but I couldn't ask her for any more because I'm a man now. I'm on my own, college graduate. So I took the risk of leap of faith, and it worked out. So those tenants who lived on Chatford Avenue, I sold them that building, that house, for $93,000 40 years later.
Wow. And you purchased it for
14,000.
14,000.
What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of using the first house, the leverage from the first house to buy the second house, the house that I'm in now.
Yeah.
And then walking in my neighborhood, riding my bike in my neighborhood, one house after another. I saw the for sale sign, for sale by owner. Oh, really? Let me investigate that.
Yeah.
Bought that. Next house, same thing. And it kept on multiplying. Now, we kept on taking the risk. But there was no wife. There were no children. There was nobody in my family had done anything like this.
Right.
So I'm thinking, I'm all alone in this. If I sink, it's on me. If I swim, it's on me. So over the period of years from 1976 until 30 years later, I've been purchasing houses every 3 or 4 years. And it's not like I went out looking for them. I'm a neighborhood landlord as of today.
Yeah.
I'm a neighborhood landlord. And as I said initially, that of the 12 houses that I have had, I sold 2. And one on Chatford Avenue was one sold to a 40-year tenant. And another one was sold in Bel Air, Edison area. Again, that's in East Baltimore. I bought it for $20,000 and I sold it for $73,000. And of course, I added things to it, central air, new roof, new windows, but still, that was phenomenal profit. And of course, I paid the taxes on both of those properties that I sold. Those taxes are called capital gains. Yeah. So I began to feel like this must be my calling. And I must say this, Morgan has how many letters in it?
Morgan 6.
Ronald. Willis. Willis.
Yeah.
All the houses have 6 in it. And that was a temptation to say, maybe I should follow this hunch. I live 62.
Yeah.
I can't give the address, right. But I live, all the houses have 6 in it.
Wow.
Either on the address is 6 somewhere in there, right. Or I bought them in the 6th month, 16 or something. They all have 6 in it. So when I look at the 8 deeds that I have, wow, these deeds go back to the 1850s. Some of these deeds, and I'm thinking, why is the number 6 constantly showing up? It's just a hunch. I'm not a gambling man, but I'm saying when you're trying to make a decision and asking God, or whoever you believe, should you make this decision, pay attention to such things.
Yeah.
My mother, Leola Willis, was a landlady in Northeast Baltimore, in East Baltimore, and she became a landlady. I'm sorry, she was a landlady, yes. And her son, one of her sons, began to follow around the maintenance man when he was a little boy. That's me. And I began to have a feel for maintenance. So I began to put 2 and 2 together. And so one house led to the second house and the third house. And fortunately, I used my money properly. Because, as I said earlier, in my lifetime, somewhere in my 50s, I owned 8 of the 10 houses that I now have. And I began to look at Peter Jennings on the news. Right. I'm not much of a reader, a book person, but I do pay attention to the local news, the world news, and I began to figure out, well, you know what? What can I do to improve my mortgages? Well, you pay the mortgage, like most all homeowners, and then there's something called the principal.
Yeah.
So if you pay the mortgage, whatever it is, $50 or $100, whatever you can spare on the principal, you reduce the time it takes to pay off the house. So I began to learn such things about housing. And being in the safety field, I began to learn codes. And I must admit, real estate has taken a tremendous change since I've been in it. There was no lead program 30 years ago.
Right.
Now every landlord has to adhere to a lead program. There was no registration with MDE, Maryland Department of the Environment, 30 years ago. So the codes and the regulations that was there 30 years ago, I'm sorry, the codes and the regulations that are there in place now were not there 30 years ago. So I'm combining all these work experiences that I've had, the Bethlehem Steel experience, the DPW experience, and my own common sense experience, all together has made me a successful landlord. So I look forward to the day when I'm no longer a landlord, when I have put these 10 properties into somebody else's hands. But right now I enjoy it. I live for this. I don't have children. I'm not married. So this gives me a lot of time to massage my dream. And I never believed that I would be making this much money at age 60, at age 40, at age 30, and now it's up to $23,000 a month net in rents alone. And by the time I pay the 2 mortgages that I have, on the 10 that I have, and the water bills and the other expenses that go with it, so we talked about close to $20,000 take-home pay a month. And so I'm the kind of landlord that I train my tenants where the water valves are, where the gas valves are. I talk about safety to them. They appreciate it. I must tell you this story. I've had a 27-year tenant on Arkansas Terrace, one of my oldest properties, Arkansas Terrace in West Baltimore, facing Drusel Park. And I went to see him one day after work, and he was saddened, and he said that my veterans benefits 10 years is up, and he had 1 more semester to finish.
Oh, wow.
So I
To
said,
finish school?
was that?
To finish school.
To finish school, right. But his VA military benefit only has 10-year cap to it. So he said, where am I going to get this $500 for tuition? I said, well, William, you have almost $700 in security deposit interest that I'm holding for you whenever you leave. Here's what I'm going to do for you. Tell me how much the tuition and books, lab fees you need. Write me a letter indicating that I will pay that for you, and you don't have to pay me back as long as you use the interest on your security deposit. And that's for him exactly what he needed. Wow. So that's the kind of landlord I am. I help deserving tenants. And I got that from my mother. She was a landlady, like I said, and she rented rooms, and she helped people who were homeless, who needed that second or third chance, who were deserving. And that's a key word, deserving tenants. And so you have to really, we're going to talk about that at a later time. How do you examine people's credentials, their body language, their sincerity, to make sure that they live in your place, they don't burn it down, that their habits are okay, that makes them want to stay month after month and year after year.
Absolutely. So good, Mr. Willis. So let's talk about, we have about 10 minutes left in this particular episode. I know people are wondering, oh wow, he got those properties back a couple back in the 70s.
Correct.
But as you were coming toward today, how were you able, and that's, people always ask this question, where do you get the money to do that?
Okay.
How are we able to finance those opportunities?
Well, if you've been listening, I'm sure, working for the National Guard, the military in general, that you don't make a whole lot of money, but it's how you utilize your money. I live a very middle America life. There's nothing wrong with Mercedes-Benz, but I don't have a Mercedes-Benz. Cadillac, I live a very kind of like a Warren Buffett kind of life, low key. I don't have to have the yacht. But for those who do, it's fine. But I'm more of a conservative, I should say. Conservative dresser and other things that I have. I have my toys, I have my hobbies, but rephrase the question one more time.
Yeah. So, how do you get access to capital?
Okay, so relationships with loan officers, and convincing them that you're worthy of the loan. And they measure that by your credit score. My credit score is approaching over 800 right now. And it's been that way since I've known Ronald Willis. And so how you do that is we live in a capitalistic society. And that means that credit is stronger than cash. Cash is still king.
Right.
But loan officers look at closely, and underwriters, they work with the bank. They look at very closely how you manage that credit over a long period of time. They look at that very, very closely. So at 17, I took out a credit card of $500. But somehow I had the motivation, inclination to pay that credit card off within 30 days. And that is still my philosophy today. Right. That's advice I would give to anybody, to not be so influenced by, gotta have this on television, but be prudent with your money. Be prudent with your money, and the money that you do make, save some. And it's difficult. I know it's difficult, but I still have a 5-gallon jar that all pennies and quarters. I have one of my buildings that I collect quarters from the wash and dryers. And you better believe after 3 years, there's $3,000 there waiting for me. So I convert that $3,000 into a CD. See, so you get these funds from the places that you've worked. And in our system, you have to have 40 quarters in order to retire and get a pension. So my little $1,700 take-home pay as a pension is a result of all those years that I've worked for Bastille, for many, many other places, substitute teaching. I can go on. And I didn't have any distractions of children or having to pay out large sums of money of mistakes that many of us make. We make mistakes and they can set us back. And so you're looking at a person who didn't have a bad run. I can't say that I was a drug addict for 3 years and I bounced back, or I had some problem with the law and then I got out of jail and I bounced back. I haven't made those kind of mistakes. Nobody's perfect, but I'm perfect enough to use my money properly. So when it came down to a down payment, when it came down to negotiating with contractors of all sizes, that my negotiating skills really helped me to lower the cost of everything that I purchased. For instance, I would go and look at a house that's for sale and have the negotiating skills to tell this real estate agent or owner, hey, did you realize you have asbestos on your floor tiles? Did you know there's asbestos surrounding your furnace? Who's going to buy that house from you? So I was able to negotiate based on what I've learned from the previous jobs that I've had.
Absolutely.
See, and where many people on jobs are playing cards on their lunch hour, taking a nap on their lunch hour, I was making telephone calls to real estate agents, on my lunch hour, on Saturday and Sunday. So it's just a matter of how much you want to put into it based on how much you get out.
Absolutely. So, you just answered the second question is, how do you find these properties? And, on the phone,
Okay.
driving around in the neighborhood, you're doing that. Now, you're not doing all type of investing. What type of investing are you doing?
Well, I didn't go look for duplexes,
Yeah.
but in my neighborhood, or on my daily jog, there was two addresses right side by side. I saw one that said for sale by owner, and the other was a real estate agency. So I just began to. By the way, the city job that I had as a safety officer, I had the city car, and I was going around the city looking. So I would just take down the addresses. But most of the
He was working, y'all.
I was working.
He was working.
I was I was working.
Yes. Yes.
So we all have lunch hours.
Yes.
We all have downtimes. So in those downtimes, you make the best of the use of your time.
Absolutely.
You see? So that's what that works. And so I'm a talker and I'm a doer. And a few of the properties on Pioneer Drive, had already purchased one house there, and here comes a neighbor saying, "Here's my keys. I see you're doing a great job with this house here. My husband and I'm breaking up with my wife or husband, and we just need to get out of this sale. We need to get out of this house. Please take it."
Wow.
So I didn't vulturize them. I just said, "Well, what is the offer? Well, what can I do?" So there's so many different ways to purchase property. So many different ways.
Absolutely. In the future episodes of the Grit Real Estate Investing podcast, we'll talk about those as well. So any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Well, just believe that when you buy property, do your homework. I can't emphasize that enough. Find out who owns the land. If you can buy the house in fee. If you're not inspection savvy, hire a professional person before you make that purchase. A professional person to give it a good house inspection. In the house where I live right now, I had it converted into two separate apartments. I had it rezoned. Yeah. So that's part of my homework. I'm a divorcee, and I had a choice to turn over that house I live in now to my ex-wife, or I had a choice to make a situation where I acquired the house and converted it into apartments that I'm still doing today. It's a system called house hacking. It's nothing new about it. And in today's climate, if you buy a house, look at it that way. Look at it possibly that way, that you could convert it into one or two apartments.
Absolutely. All right. Well, good deal. So we'll be back again for 2 additional episodes. And again, some of the episodes we're going to do recorded, and then some of them we want to hear from you, where you can call in as we are having a conversation. And it just may not be the two of us. We're the host of the show. We may bring in some other individuals as well. All right, and you can find us on edacmorgan.com. The app is coming soon, y'all. It's going to be nice. On future episodes, we'll talk more about that. And again, EDAC Morgan is not just about the podcast. We have some other activities there as well. So look on the website. You'll have an opportunity to see the resources that we have for budding and existing entrepreneurs. Until we see each other again, first of all, thank you, Mr. Willis, for doing this.
You're welcome.
And continue to improve and progress. Peace. That's a wrap for today's episode of Grit Real Estate Investing. If you found this valuable, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow investors. Got a question or topic you would like us to cover? Reach out to me, Omar, at edacmorgan.com. That's Omar at edacmorgan.com. And remember, fortune favors the bold. So go out there and invest with grit. See you next time.